And we are live. Hey everyone, thanks a lot for joining us on the Civo Online Meetup number 17th. And we're really excited for this one. And we are joined by Chintan, who is the founder of Saaras Inc. And welcome, Chintan. Really appreciate you giving the time. Would you like to tell our joinees a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I am based in San Francisco Bay Area, and I enjoy the weather here. And I've been building my startup for the past 2-3 years, 4 years actually, in the cloud native space. So I'm really happy to be here talking to Kunal. It's really amazing.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for joining. And for folks who have joined us today, we're going to talk about connecting and securing your microservices in OneStep using EnRoute. And Chintan is going to cover about using the Kubernetes Ingress API gateway on Civo, and they're going to walk you through the architecture and cover a lot of other things and answer all of your questions as well. And I'm going to be also sharing about how you can use your own TLS certificates for your EnRoute Kubernetes Ingress with like self-signed certificates. So let's get started. And I just want to give as a little bit of a reminder that if anyone has any questions, feel free to send those in the chat or in the YouTube stream if you're joining us from YouTube. And let's get started. So let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, I believe you can see my terminal. I'll my Civo as well. Always fun to do late night demos. All right.
So it's 10:30 p.m. Kunal in India.
Yeah, it's around 10:30, but that's fine. All right. So yeah, welcome everyone. And Chintan will tell you more about like EnRoute stuff, and we are going to cover how you can use self-signed certificate with EnRoute Kubernetes Ingress gateway. And in order for you to get started with this demo, all you need is a working Kubernetes cluster, and you can learn more about the architecture and stuff, via the documentations, or you can also cover it, later on. But what we're going to do right now is I'm going to create a Civo cluster. I'm going to create, I had the demo running over here, but I'll just say, EnRoute demo live. Hopefully it does not break. And good. Did I select the, okay. Create cluster. So it'll be up and running in like around 90 seconds. Do we have any? Yeah, please feel free to ask any questions, and happy to answer those. So I'm just going to download like the config file for this, and it should be up and running in like around 90 seconds. But till the time it's building, Chintan, would you like to share a little bit more about EnRoute?
Oh yeah, definitely. So thanks, Kunal. So we built EnRoute for simplicity, and the idea was when folks are moving to Kubernetes, as such, there is a lot of complexity to deal with. And we saw that if you make it simple, it's just easier for the developer, it's easier for the operations folks. And I just wanted to add that we saw a similar mechanism or a similar philosophy followed at Civo as well. I'll talk more about it when I present the demo, but it's really amazing how easy it is to build a cluster and get going with Civo, and how composable pieces can be collected together, right? Like depending on your use case, you can bring in the app you want to run on the cluster. So with EnRoute also, we did the same thing, but with application security, right? So say when you are running a microservice, how are you going to secure it and connect it? What are the different plugins you want to run? Like, do you want to have rate limiting running on it? Do you want circuit breakers? Do you want to do cores? So you can essentially compose the L7 policy for an application, and then just invoke one command to get going with the whole thing. So the idea here is like simplicity.
Yeah. And thanks a lot for sharing. Our cluster has been created. I can just download the file. And where is it? Say export. There you go. So that looks good. You can use the Helm repository of Saaras, and I'm just gonna Helm repo. Yep, there we go. And okay, I have it already available over here, and I can search for like existing ones. So I have, I think over here, this one and the service policy one as well. Cool. And now I'm just going to install the Helm chart. You can say Helm install route. I was running this earlier, that's why it's giving me suggestions, and that looks good. So it's going to get installed in the namespace that has been provided over here, EnRoute Demo. All right, looks like that's working. We can check it as well in the namespace EnRoute Demo. There you go. I'm just going to copy this because the external IP will be useful later on. Cool. So that's about it, but we still need to like program the gateway and in order to expose this service. So we can create a namespace for this. You can say create namespace demo service. And one more thing, now we need some YAML files for like a pod and a service. So I can get that. I have it written over here. 1 second. Cool. So just two YAML, like two Kubernetes configurations, one for a pod and one for a service. And that looks good. Cool. So you can see pod created and service created. Say CTL pods, namespace
demo service.
Demo service. Yeah. Very cool. And now we can expose this with a simple Helm command. I believe this is prefixes. So basically it's going to make it run on port 80 and it's going to be visible on this path /get. And I can list all the like I can get my service. Where is it? You can copy this, right? And I can just on get. That looks good. Cool.
Cool.
All right. And I can use OpenSSL to create like a signed certificate for this. OpenSSL, I believe this is the one. And here I'm providing. Cool. Now I can create a secret. I think that looks good. So yeah, that is created. And I can now just curl.
So Kunal, do you need to install it?
There we go. I think, oh no, wait a minute.
I think you need to install it with the edit. kubectl edit.
Where? I think it was.
So you created the secret, but now you need to give the secret to the.
I think I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
I did not update the gateway host for the service. Yeah. I think that looks good. Yeah. So basically, when you expose this using the Helm command in second. Yeah. 1 second. So this gateway. Yeah. Over here, I have to write it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that. And hello. root. I think it was EnRouteDemo.com. Okay, what? Let me just zoom out for a second. Okay, now maybe I can.
There you go.
Now that works. So basically what happened was that when I exposed it using the Helm command, a gateway host was created and we just added TLS in it. I think that was it. Yeah, short little demo, but cool. All right, we have a question over here. How is EnRoute related with Istio?
Oh, great question. So EnRoute is extremely lightweight and it can work with different service meshes. Of course, Istio is in the development, but it can today work with Linkerd. And the idea is that how do you, so when you see people talking about service meshes, right, they generally talk about how complex it is to run it. So with EnRoute, you can just use like a very simple mechanism to integrate it with service mesh. So pretty soon you're going to see an announcement of one-step integration with service mesh. Linkerd is the first one, but we only do the ingress part. So how your traffic enters the cluster is where EnRoute plays a role. And how you secure your east-west traffic is what Istio does, right?
Yeah. And there's one like follow-up question. Does EnRoute integrate well with the distributed tracing applications?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we have support for Zipkin, and we are planning to put in support for the open telemetry-based tracing. But the idea is that if you have ongoing tracing, you can easily set a flag in Helm, and that will just enable the tracing along with the whole thing. So when your traffic comes in, right from the ingress to the point it hits the service, you can trace each of the paths, and EnRoute basically fits like a puzzle, which helps build the whole trace graph for it. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. There's one more question. What is the need of microservices like in setting up EnRoute Kubernetes Ingress? How is it? What makes EnRoute different from other Ingress products?
This is again a great question. So the idea here is that once you start realizing that if you want to release software faster, right, you cannot have a lot of configuration that multiple teams have to do to support your infrastructure, right? So what we did with EnRoute is we have automated a whole bunch of stuff and reduced it to one command depending on the service you want to run. So our focus is simplicity. And what we have done is we have taken Envoy. We say Envoy is a rich proxy. We are just going to build an extremely lightweight shim on it. Simplicity, like lightweight and extremely easy to program. The developer, any developer who gets started, right, has challenges with understanding how the traffic flows, how ingress works, right? This is basically meant for getting up and running in no time. Like I will show you like literally how in 60 seconds, you can just get up and running with security all baked into this in no time. So that's our key offering,
Amazing. And Marino is asking, I missed the first 5 minutes. What does the architecture look like? We haven't covered that yet, but leave Chintan can. Chintan, go ahead. Yeah, you can take the stage.
Great. Thanks, Kunal. Appreciate you walking through the self-signed piece with EnRoute. I'm just going to go ahead and build on top of what Kunal presented here. And, it just keeps the flow going like that. And feel free to interrupt, ask questions. We can make this interactive, but I also wanted to take a couple of minutes to really, show how easy Civo makes it, So what I realized, and this is while, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about EnRoute and Civo a little bit and say, the other key aspect about EnRoute was that we wanted to eliminate a lot of YAML writing. I mean, if you start configuring things in your, Ingress, you end up writing a lot of YAML. So the idea was, can you do away with writing that YAML? You cannot completely do away, but you can just say that here are my high-level switches, and the YAML will happen on its own, right? And at a high level, EnRoute is a Kubernetes Ingress controller API gateway, and we use the feature-rich Envoy proxy to do this, right? And for simplicity, we have said like, okay, most of the stuff that you do using EnRoute can be done using OneStep, right? So what we'll do in this session is quickly extend what Kunal did, and I will go through. I'll go through some getting started guide, which is right here on the website. So here is a high-level picture of what we can do today, and what you see here is you have a cluster. You have your own service running, the HTTP bin service that Kunal showed. So you have that, and then you have the EnRoute ingress controller running. And then once you expose the service, you have a bunch of filters, which are automatically set up. You can tweak them. Like you can say, okay, this service needs this kind of rate limiting, this kind of circuit breaking, this kind of security. So we'll walk through some of that stuff to give you a little more insight into how this all works. And you can't talk about all this EnRoute unless you talk about the platform on which you're running, right? So we'll also briefly touch upon how Civo, makes this really cool. And I did find a couple of very interesting things with Civo, which I also wanted to share. So here is my screen. I have a Civo cluster running.
Can you maybe zoom in a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just a sec. Let me increase the font size. That way. I can keep going. What do you feel? Should I zoom in more, or this? Here is two more. I
think that looks good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the really interesting thing was this CLI, Civo Kubernetes, the Civo CLI. I thought it was very cool because I was running the same process that Kunal was running of downloading the kube config and exporting it. But this command actually can save and overwrite your kube config, and it makes it so easy. So you spin something up, and then you save your config file, and it all just runs, So you have a cluster in like 3 commands, and it just makes it dead simple, So I just loved that aspect of it. So already have a cluster running, but the idea here is that, yeah, there is a cluster here with 2 nodes and a couple of applications also installed. This is again, like I was mentioning, right? You can compose your cluster with the applications that you want to run, right? So that's the other beauty of Civo, the marketplace, right? So that was pretty cool. So we said, you know what, we're just going to create a cluster with one of these CNIs. So Cilium and Flannel, is that right? There's 2 of them today.
That is correct, yeah.
So you can pick one, and then you can say, hey, you know what? I need the following set of applications. So we ran that, and we have a load balancer set up. So what I have is already set up the I already set up the EnRoute service. So the Helm install command, I'm not going to cover it again, just for the sake of time. And Kunal did that earlier. So I'm just going to assume that we have, an EnRoute ingress controller running. So this piece is already installed using Helm. So you can just say, right? So you have the EnRoute running. And you also have the cert manager running. So we saw that, cert manager got installed right on the platform. So again, super convenient, really helps. You don't have to deal with a bunch of installation things with it. So here we'll again walk through some of that stuff, and then I'll show you different filters, right? So we did all that. So that's the Helm command that installs it. That's the get service. So again, if you want to run through all these steps, it's all there on the website. So we're just going to follow that. So this service is already there. So we'll just right. So we already have this service running. Again, I won't go over what Kunal did. So it's just for the sake of time, we'll just run through this real quick. And this is something that exposes the service. Again, we'll just go ahead and run this. And that's my external IP. So again, this is what he did. We just set it up again. And let's see what we got, what we have installed. So a quick note here. So Helm has let me set up the cert manager. Helm has let me set up the ingress controller. And the Helm has also let me expose the service with a set of policies for the service using just one command. Right? So now this has already set up the rate limit filter. Let's see. Let's see how the rate limit filter works. So we say while. So we'll send a few requests. I'm not seeing the return code. So let's say -I. Oh, so I'm not seeing any rate limiting happening. So let's see rate limiting limits, right? So here is my rate limiting config, and the rate limiting config says that, hey, when you look an X forwarded for header, use the value there. And when the protocol matches HTTP, limit it to 5 requests per second. So let's just tweak this and say 2 requests per second. And let's try again now. Yeah, I see some 429s. Right? And that's limiting it to 2 requests per second because I'm sending, so essentially the curl I'm doing is an HTTP request, right? So let's try and completely choke this guy, right? So say, right? So everything is a 429, everything is rate limited, everything is kept out. So we'll go back to our original limits. Now I can talk more about this, but this is all there on the website, and this is essentially like like some JSON configuration. We also have a detailed article on how to achieve the rate limiting config. You can also do it using any L7 state, including JOTs or identity or any of the headers or any of the query strings, everything, right? So this was automatically set up when we expose the service, right? And similarly, there is also the Lua filter. So let's just say HTTP filters, HTTP bin, right? So there is the Lua filter, which also got set up. So the idea here is you just executed one command. You got a completely baked L7 policy to expose your service, right? So none of the coding is needed, and then you can go ahead and tweak it. So let's say I'm going to add a header on the response side, right? And let's do our call again. There. So
Speaking
that's
of
your Lua
policies. Can we also use something like Open Policy Agent with it?
Yes, great question. Again, I'm really glad you asked that. So what we have done is we have broken this up into multiple filters. So you say you have a service you want to secure using OPA, Open Policy Agent. You just flip a switch and it should work. Now, where do you define the policy? Is we have today it's sitting in the Helm templates. So you have a ready-made template which you can go ahead and tweak. So again, great question. You can do OPA using this mechanism. We do support OPA. So you can look up. So we have 3 editions. So we have the open source edition. This is the community edition. What we're running currently and what is on the Docker Hub that we all downloaded is the community edition. And then we have the enterprise edition, which has a few enterprise plugin features. For example, OPA is an enterprise feature. But for this meetup, if anybody wants to try it out, we are happy to hand out a license so that they can just give it a try. So again, let's tweak this one more time. So the idea here is just so that you guys know that I'm changing it right in front of you. I'm going to do it one more time, right? So that's the filter again. Now, here is another cool aspect. Kunal covered like how you can do a self-signed certificate, but an extremely popular option is doing ACME certs, right? Using the ACME protocol. And you have the Let's Encrypt server running out there, which can issue a certificate and sign a certificate. It's a certificate authority that can sign a certificate for you. So what we have done is we have tightly integrated with that aspect, right? So what it does is you can just issue a certificate, sign a certificate, install a certificate, all of it in just one command, right? So that's the other. So typically this would take like weeks of work. Oh, how do I figure out the cert manager works? How do I issue the certificate? How do I install it? How do I verify it? So all those steps are again compressed into one step. And again, somebody was asking how is EnRoute different? So, I mean, we thought like bringing in the simplicity by doing all these integration is key to running fast with this. So let's just start going through that real quick. So you can go through the website. This diagram basically, somebody was asking me about the architecture. So this diagram sort of unpacks the architecture a little bit more. So what you can see on the top right here is how your rate limits are configured. This is the service. This is your Lua filter. And this is how your gateway host looks like, right? So now we'll go at the... So this section talks about the cert manager. So we are going to use cert manager. The cert manager is going to help us talk to Let's Encrypt and install a certificate. And again, this is all going to happen through one Helm command, where we tell the cert manager to do all this verification and installation. So the cert manager is installed today. So you can see we already have the cert manager. And again, if you remember when I showed you the Civo CLI output with the Kubernetes cluster, right? So Civo show, right? So that also showed me how I had the cert manager going. Again, like really cool platform. I have used a lot of platforms so far, and by far, I think Civo is the easiest to work with, so I just love it. So again, here's the cert manager, it's all set up and running. And what I have done is for this demo, the way Let's Encrypt works is it wants to send a request to your domain to verify the certificate, right? So when you say, hey, Let's Encrypt, sign this certificate for me. And this is the domain name, HTTP bin service is the domain name. Hey, can you sign this for me? Then Let's Encrypt wants to see, hey, can I reach this server? Does this server really belong to you? Is there any way I can verify it? So we already have the DNS set up for this. So we are just going to use this, like the Civo DNS, right? For instance, today, and say Civo nyc1-http bin.enroute demo, right? We are just going to use this domain name, right? So if you ping this, right? So this is set to the public IP, right? So you can dump the load balancer. So here I look at the load balancer. So the load balancer external IP is 245, and we have set the DNS name to 245. What this means is when Let's Encrypt is trying to verify this guy, right, it knows that it needs to come to our service, right? Because we have a cert manager running and we have all the infra running there to say, hey, come here and verify this, right? So here is the one command that lets you do that. So that's from the old one, right? So let's just recreate this. So here my domain name is Civo nyc1 HTTP bin, right? And I'm just going to use right. So this is all I have to do. This is all known to us. We know that we are running the service in the demo service namespace. The name of this service is HTTP bin. That's the L7 path, the port on which the service is running. Yes, I want TLS. I don't want to create any global configuration because I created it in the previous step. Here is my domain name. Okay, create issuers is an artifact that is used by the cert manager. If you need to reach me, here is my email address, and use the Let's Encrypt production server, not the non-production. So it has a couple of servers, right? So here we'll let this run. So what this is doing is talking to Let's Encrypt, getting a cert for us, and let's see what it got for us. Okay, do you have any certs? And here you can see that it's not ready yet, right? So we're just going to put a watch on it and see, hey, let's see what's going on with this. So it has to undergo the verification process right now, right? So it's talking to the Let's Encrypt server. There you go. So now we have a validated certificate, right? Because we see that it's set to true, right? So this command not only validated the certificate, it also installed it. So what Kunal showed in the last step where he edited the gateway host, that's all taken care of, right? So now let's just fire the curl command, right? So we are just going to say, I'm going to curl to my location, right? The domain. Right, and here we have the CN set to the one that we created, right? And then we have the Let's Encrypt signed certificate, right? So now I'll just quickly add one more thing to this and we'll call it done. But this just shows the simplicity with which you can tweak things. Here are more steps of what's happening in each of the Helm commands. So if you go through this stuff, you'll see, okay, what's all this Helm command doing, right? I mean, this sort of like, again, unpacks more because somebody told us, hey, can you tell us more about this? So anyway, this is another service for it. And then there is one more. There is this JWT feature, which typically every single gateway out there charges for, right? So it's free in EnRoute, and we'll just go ahead and enable that, right? right? So here we just say, hey, let's do this. Let's add the jot to this, right? Right, and let's fire the curl again, right? And it's a unauthorized 401. So as simple as just flipping a switch and your service is secure, right? And this is what is coming from Envoy. Envoy says, hey, your jot is missing. You didn't send me a jot. How do you expect me to honor this request? So I'm just going to send it back to you with a 401, and you need to send a jot again. So if we create a jot again, right, and then send it, right, then it's going to work, right? Or just get rid of this, right? And let's say, so this is no configuration, no YAMLs to deal with, right? And there you go. Your jot is open, right? So the idea here is, how do you like make this simple so that you don't have to like wrestle with all the YAML? You just get going real fast. And then you can define like, hey, this is my service. It's an edge service. It needs XYZ circuit breakers, blah, blah, right? I mean, and then once you have done that work, you can just reuse it. It makes life simple. So that's all I had. I'll hand it over to you guys again.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for presenting, Chintan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And question I had was, when you were doing the rate limiting, on what basis was it doing that?
Again, great question. So there are several reasons people want to rate limit. One of the most common reasons today, if you see, is the service level agreement that is provided, right? So today, if you use the Docker Hub, they'll rate limit your downloads unless you pay them money, right? So, and the other thing is, different customers get different SLAs, right? So that's why I was saying like, okay, rate limiting on the basis of jot gives you an opportunity to say this customer belongs to the premium tier. They need to get this kind of RPS. And this is a very common practice out there. So it's essentially to enforce SLAs. Sometimes, like you just want to make sure that, somebody's not abusing it. So you say anything coming from this location, right? Hey, let's rate limit it to this, something like that, right? So you can get creative with it.
Yeah, so then you can also maybe do, if the person is authenticated or not.
Yes.
Allow them only then. Yeah.
Great point. Awesome point. So yes, on the basis of your auth, like the way Envoy gave us a 401, if there is no jot, you can again say, hey, if this guy is not authorized and he doesn't have any other form of token, right? Auth can take any form. It can be in query string, and you can say, hey, you know what? I don't think this guy is authenticated, so I will not allow him. And you can just cut it off. Yeah, absolutely. Great point.
Just one last thing then. Can you add some custom filters then?
Yes, absolutely. So what we have done is, the beauty of Envoy is it's really extensible. And what we have said is like, you know what, we're just going to follow that. And one of the key takeaways of our open source platform is we have localized how easy it is to add an extension filter. And watch out for an extremely interesting feature coming out in the next month and a half, where we are saying you will be able to extend your Envoy or your Ingress using any language you like. I think the folks who are in the space will get the hint, but we are actively working on it. And extensibility is one of our top things that we care for. So absolutely, yes.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for answering. Those are all the questions I had, but Nirlip is asking, what is the difference between EnRoute Kubernetes Ingress Gateway and EnRoute Standalone Gateway?
Oh, again, a very good question. So when so EnRoute Standalone can work without Kubernetes. It runs inside a Docker container, and it has the same config model. So the idea is, say you define all this policy and a detailed rate limiting framework, you put in all the work, right? Now you say, hey, I'm trying to modernize my app, but today it's not there yet. I still want to enforce this policy. Then the idea is, you know what, you spin up a Docker, you run EnRoute in it, and the same policy, you can just stick it in. So the idea is that once you define policy, it runs anywhere. And you run it at Ingress, you run it standalone without Kubernetes inside a Docker container, and the exact same policy works.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing. I believe that answers the question. And those are all the questions we had. Thanks a lot for joining, Chintan. And for folks who have joined, if you want to rewatch it, it will be available as a recording on YouTube. And really appreciate you giving the time. And yeah, any closing remarks?
This is great, guys. I mean, thank you very much for setting this up. So I'm really happy to be here, and just feel free to shoot us a message or something. The website has the contact information, so happy to answer questions. And I just want to close with saying developers are rock stars. So
yeah, awesome. Couldn't agree more. And thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. And really appreciate you giving the time. Check out the documentations, and there's much more cool stuff over there. And keep an eye out on the announcement.